So if you're a fan of the Marvel and Avengers movies, you'll remember the one Captain America Civil War, where Captain America fights Iron Man. And in fact, that's where we are right now in the USA. Iron Man being Elon Musk, except Elon Musk doesn't actually understand his own tech, just hires a bunch of other people to do it. And then you got Donald Trump on the other side, who's Captain America, except he's grossly overweight and he hates America. And both these guys, they do have one thing in common. They're trying to fill their pockets with as much money as they possibly can. And they have no understanding or caring about regular people like you or I. I want to go over this stuff because basically the fight is over who gets jobs in America. And essentially this whole conversation, discussion, Civil War we're seeing exposes essentially the frauds and liars that they are. So let's just jump right in and I'll show you guys what I'm looking at. This is Elon Musk reposting one of his fanboys. And he says here, Trump gets it.
But what I want to do and what I will do is you graduate from a college, I think you should get automatically as part of your diploma a green card to be able to stay in this country. And that includes junior colleges too. Anybody graduates from a college, you go in there for 2 years or 4 years. If you graduate or you get a doctorate degree from a college, you should be able to stay in this country. And you know more stories than I do, but I know of stories where people graduated from a top college or from a college and they desperately wanted to stay here. They had a plan for a company, a concept.
And this is actually interesting because if you understand, Donald Trump all the time is talking about kick out all the brown people, get rid of them, right? They're taking your jobs. And then now he's basically talking about, hey, how about we bring in all these people to take your jobs? And we're talking about two different like spectrums. Like I want to make it really clear, like tech jobs that, require technical skills, et cetera, are very, very different, obviously, than agricultural construction jobs, right? However, I want to also make this clear. Both jobs are needed and valuable in the USA. There's different types of jobs that everything is required to make society function. And I've said that so many times on the channel. And I think what sort of this stuff exposes, though, is that these people essentially just want cheap workers no matter what. That's essentially what they want. And kind of when I read through this rhetoric, I just feel like, unfortunately, the middle class in the USA is going to get left behind. The MAGA people are hoping that Trump's going to come save you. It's just not looking that way. I think we already knew this. We can already, for those of us who follow my channel, you guys know this. You can already see through Trump's and the Musks. But I want to just go through this stuff with you guys because this is the world that we're going into, going 2025 as President Musk and Trump take office. We have this. This is just the headlines today. U.S. homeless count surges 18% to record high. And I get, so basically we're record high homelessness in USA. And I guess these numbers aren't even necessarily accurate because it's generally undercounted. That's what I was looking at here. They're saying, when we give you a number on homeless, it's probably way higher. It's just hard to count this kind of thing. And it's a combination of migrant workers, a combination of natural disasters, right, which put people out of their homes for, be it Hawaii, be it in the southeast of the USA. It's also expensive housing, right? You guys know this. We also, this is something, and it's a massive problem in USA. And people always tell me, hey, Chris, you don't realize it's gotten really, really bad. And guys, I know, I always refer to it as substance abuse, but I'm sure there's that. We have a mental health problem in USA. We just have all these problems that stack up, and you're getting record high homelessness. On top of that, from the Trump camp, they keep saying, hey, we're going to kick out all of these people, and I guess he's hired a border czar. That's this I think Holman's his name.
We say detention, but it's not in a jail setting. This is actually an open air campus, family type facility that is open air, right? So we're not talking about razor wire and a penal institution, things like that. They have childcare, they have education programs.
There is no such thing as a soft detention site. There's no humane way of detaining children in prisons, because that's what it ends up becoming, even if it's a tent structure.
President-elect Trump has promised deportation on...
To be fair to them, he's like, hey, we're not going to use barbed wire, but we're going to have it open air. But it's still detention centers for families, essentially what it is. And then you got Trump tweeting out on Christmas Day. This was real. He was like tweeting people go to hell, and then he was threatening to take over Canada, Panama, Greenland, this stuff. I just did a video on, I guess, Kevin O'Leary, who's going to represent Canada, is going to go to meet Trump in Florida, talking about how we can erase the border between Canada and USA. For real, I'm not making this up. I know it sounds ridiculous, guys. I know it sounds ridiculous, but these whole conversations that we're having with Trump coming in is ridiculous. It's even worse than it was in 2016, which I remember, like, it was like shock after shock after shock of all this nonsense stuff that he would say. But the second time around, I think he feels even more emboldened. And even this is true story. My wife pointed this out to me. It was like a couple days ago, where even on here in our Korean news here in Korea, they were making fun of Trump, and basically they're like, this is not usual for a U.S. president to sell you Christmas cups with his face on it, sweatshirts with his face on it with Santa hat, and basically profiting off being president. And like it's bad when even foreign media is like, what the heck is this doing? This is not normal. Back in the U.S. Media, I guess, if you really wanted to, you could buy Trump wrapping paper with his mugshot on it. Never surrender. Hey, hottest ticket for MAGA. And you guys, when I laugh at this stuff, it's just because it's so ridiculous, and I can't cry every single day on this stuff. But I mean, it's a combination of like, is this real? And I know whenever we have these conversations, people are always like, what timeline is this? Right? It's like some sort of crazy alternate timeline. You also got this headline today. Trump, I guess, wants to pause the TikTok ban. So are we going to ban TikTok or not? Who knows? But whenever I read something that Trump does, I just feel like, okay, he's just trying to figure out a way. Who's going to pay me the biggest bribe? How can I profit out of it? That's the way these people work. It's a business person, right? If you hire a business person to do this kind of job, a business person, their mind is, how can I generate profits? How can I make money? That's what it's all about. It's the same situation I've told you guys before, the example of, say, the post office. So sometimes people like, they worship Musk and they Trump to say, okay, we just got to make money. We got to streamline. We got to make money and do whatever we can to make money, right? And that's what a business person thinks, and which is fine. It's great when you're investing stocks and that's what it's all about. But for governance, it's not necessarily what you want. Example, the post office. If the post office only was concerned about making money, we wouldn't deliver to small cities of small population because it's too far to go, right? And if we were to do it, we just charge them oodles amounts of cash to deliver there. But because some things don't want to be run for profit, you have something like the post office who may operate at a loss in certain cities because it's a public service. It's for the public good, right? The same way that it's a good idea, guys. It's a good idea to build schools and to support, public education, support public health, because I've said this so many times. It's probably the biggest issue for me. I just feel like, every child in the USA should have an equal chance at education and health. I'm not saying anything crazy, right? And I just think that should be fundamental. But I understand that if you're going from a profit model perspective, you're like, well, those poor kids in those small towns, we're not going to make any money off of them. So, why should we, put education to there? And in fact, we actually want to make it so they don't have education, so they can come to work in our companies and be these low wage workers, right? And then when we want to get educated workers, we'll just get them from other countries and we'll pay them less because we can put them on this like H-1B, and then they have to follow our rules because they can't quit their job. Like, that's the kind of system that I feel like that we're sort of pushing with the Musk and the Trump. And so it's really interesting how this whole dynamic is playing out, because I think the MAGA people and all these people who support Musk and Trump, they think their life's going to get better. And I've been keep warning you guys about this stuff, that they've sold you a sham, a lie. And it's actually fascinating how when we get these intersections between sort of the different factions of the MAGA world, how they're really in contention or civil war. Remember, it's the fake Iron Man versus the fake Captain America fighting each other. This is Elon Musk. He's just tweeting out, and he's been tweeting up a storm. So I can't even go over all of them, so don't expect me to read every single one. It literally is a storm. It's probably like 300 in a day or something crazy. Like, it really is that much. You'll see. So anyway, this is the stuff that Elon Musk has been saying. He says here, on December 28, 2024, anyone of any race, creed, or nationality who came to America and worked like hell to contribute to this country will forever have my respect. America is a land of freedom and opportunity. Fight with every fiber of your being to keep it that way. USA flag, USA flag, USA flag, right? And guys, by this just on the surface, I don't disagree. America's a land of immigrants, right? No matter what your religion, etc. Welcome your contributions and honor that, and there's that. The problem is if you can't take this stuff in isolation. If you've been watching Musk's account for the last year, he basically tweets out all day, every day, that immigrants are here to hurt you. They're the ones who are the criminals, and they're the ones who are gonna, do bad things. I can't say these words on YouTube, but and it's always dark people. He tweets it out nonstop, basically, right? And I've said several times, for me, I'll use a simple example, and like I said, no jokes about this kind of stuff, like school shooting thing, right? So if it's a school shooting and it happens to be someone who's a similar skin color as Elon Musk, he'll stay silent on that stuff. To me, any kind of violence, it doesn't matter what you look like. I don't condone any kind of violence at all. And in fact, it's awful. As per Frank, it's awful. No matter what the violence is, it's awful. But I don't just cherry pick, oh, it's only awful when, certain color people do it. That's what Musk does all the time. And it is interesting, though, now he's trying to like play both sides, essentially. And it's ultimately what you have is people like the Musk or the Trump, you realize they don't believe in anything other than lining their pockets with money. That's just what this is all about. And you'll get these sort of, how can I say, discrepancies in their logic here. And the other thing it exposes with, say, the Trumps and the Musks is they're really, what's the right word to say it? The first word that came to my mind would be amateur, because I'll give you an example. When Musk took over Twitter, or say when Musk recently fired a bunch of people at Tesla, he behaves like this sort of, rich, spoiled kid who wants things right now. And if he can't get it right now, let's throw a temper tantrum. That's essentially what it is. So, like, oh, if you don't agree with me right now in this meeting, you're all fired. Everyone out of the room. Everyone out of the room. And then like a week later, oh, wow, I kind of need people to come work for me. And he starts hiring people back. That's what he does. That's literally what it is. And it's hilarious because to the fanboys and fangirls of Tesla, Musk, or Trumps or whatever, they just think these guys, are God, and essentially emperors, or whatever you want to call these people, or kings or queens, if you want to call it that, right? They just think these people are perfect, but it's painfully obvious when you see their behavior. And when we're watching this stuff play out live in social media, it's interesting because we usually don't see these public meltdowns. I've seen it behind closed doors, and that's what I try to tell you guys about. I write about it in my book. You should check it out. It's called Positive Angle, and that's what it's about. Like when you get to these, levels, and you realize, wow, these people who are born rich are no smarter than you. They're just born rich. It just happens. Some people, are born to families on golden toilets and emeralds in their pockets, and some people aren't. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they're smarter just because they're born rich. And you watch this as a regular person, if you've worked your way up, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And I just have to bring it up because for whatever reason, there's this weird culture in the USA that just think rich people are smarter. It's not the case. It's just not. They're just born rich. There's a difference. This is an interesting one too. It says Scott Adams. He says, MAGA is taking a page from Democrats on how to lose elections while feeling good about themselves. And Elon Musk says this. This is what Elon Musk says. He says, yes, and those contemptible fools must be removed for the Republican Party root and stem. So he's starting to call MAGA people contemptible. That's the phrase he's using. Laura Loomer, who's one of sort of the right-wing influencer people. I don't really follow this person, but I've heard the name. She's like kind of commenting on the civil war between the Musks and the Trumps. She says here, sad to see Elon Musk is now referring to MAGA as contemptible fools, deplorables, listless vessels, garbage, and now contemptible fools. And he might have been using all these words. I don't know. Like I said, Elon Musk has been tweeting up a storm. It's way too much to go over. So I'm just showing you this. And then what's interesting is then she also says the Trump base is being replaced by big tech executives. So sad to see Real Donald Trump. I feel sad for MAGA. Then she goes on to hear big tech hates me. And then I guess she's been banned for whatever tech. And then she says, you should use Buy Me a Coffee if you want to, donate to me. And then the funny thing is she got checked by Community Notes over on Twitter that said Buy Me a Coffee was founded by two people from India on H-1B visas. So if you get the irony of this thing is like she's saying, hey, help me use the technology that essentially immigrants built. But by the way, I hate immigrants. But that's the kind of way these people are. And guys, I make it so clear. I'm fine actually having conversations on any one of these things. The problem is a lot of this stuff, be it the Trumps and the Musks, it's all based on misinformation, disinformation. They're not honest with you about these things. They're just basically out to line their own pockets. This is someone, a MAGA person. So this was like the account was like, they said MAGA, Christian, that kind of stuff. They really did. It's Van Eyck here. And they put out this really interesting picture that I just thought it sort of captured sort of the world we're in perfectly. Where it says here, we just want the top 1%, top 0.1% of talent. That's sort of like, your Musk, your Trumps, kings and queens. And then the sort of the, average Americans, you will train the H-1B who will replace you. And also I want to make this clear, guys, as well. I don't think we should necessarily be hating on people who are, on visas necessarily. That's the point I'm trying to make here is like, if we just treat everyone like human beings, don't worship anyone, don't demean anyone, it changes the way our conversations work entirely. At the end of the day, everyone just wants to take care of their family. At the end of the day, people want to be treated with respect. At the end of the day, people want, a decent job, decent living, etc. And when someone feels like they don't have a fair shake at things, right, a fair chance, they get really, really frustrated because the system, is against them, and they feel like it's against them. And in many cases, they're not wrong. It is against them. And sort of, again, I just try to talk with you guys like logically and honestly about these things, about where the problems are and how can we find fixes for this stuff. So again, for me, public education, public health, right? Make these affordable for people. I think that's a really major step, and be honest with people, which very few people, be it CEOs, politicians, etc., are. And some of these things are very, very difficult to address. But sort of when it goes to, if we want to talk voting or whoever you want to say, it's just the truth is that if someone's willing to lie to the American public and just make up a bunch of nonsense, say, hey, vote for me, I'll give you unicorns and fairies, and there's gonna be bitcoins in your driveways, and you're all gonna have $1 million boats, and like, oh wow, I'm gonna vote for that person. and it turned out, and if you call out that guys, what they're saying is nonsense, they get mad. They're like, what do you mean? They promised me we're all gonna be rich. So it's hard to fight that logic. I'll just say that there's a whole bunch of stuff in here, and it's like it's too much to go over. I'm just looking kind of the stuff that Musk says. Here's an example. So it's just, I'll just show you guys. It's just post after post after post. I'll just throw it on screen. As you can see, it's too much to go over. But basically, they've been fighting about immigration, and in the context of homelessness is rising in USA. We're talking about use the military to kick out a bunch of people. And I mentioned before, say if you want to go to the lower end, or how better to say it, we'll say the jobs that pay less in USA, so be agriculture or construction. Essentially a lot of Americans hire these people because they're cheap labor. Now, if we kick those people out, the question is going to be, are Americans going to want to do those jobs? Maybe they are. And then now we're talking about Trump and Musk who want to bring in high-tech workers to work cheaper than Americans. I mean, I just feel like this whole thing, this simplify it, this whole thing is about how can we make labor as cheap as possible so the rich can get as rich as possible. And that's sort of what I see happening. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on this stuff, and I'll catch you on the next video.